All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar event. Um, my name is Joshua, and I'm going to be your presenter today. Welcome back for those who've attended one of our webinars before. If you're joining us just for the first time, welcome. We hope you find the information in this event helpful today. We're going to work together for about the next 20 minutes, albeit my CPU clock looks like it's a little behind. I think it is 2 or 2:01 right now, so we're going to go ahead and get started. This event probably won't even last the full 20 minutes. I think this is a fairly straightforward webinar event. It's about a very specific report, and it might last 10 or 15 minutes maybe at the most. But thank you in advance for attending. Wherever we are, I'm going to stop whatever. If it does last 20 minutes, I'm going to stop wherever I am, and I'll certainly be happy to stick around and answer questions about the topic. If you do have questions, please type those into the questions portion of the webinar. I will try my best to keep an eye on those and answer those. But if I can't get to it during the actual topic, then I will certainly get to those afterwards near the end. We do record these webinar events, so a recording of today's event should be on our website no later than tomorrow, Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time today. We also are working on a document on this particular webinar event. We had one up there in preparation for this webinar event. I determined that it was actually quite poorly written, and it needed to be reworked, and so we're working on that now. Hopefully, we'll have that up by the end of tomorrow as well on our website as well. And again, for those of you who have not been there, please, pay a visit to our website, our new website. It's been out for a couple months now, but here's our new website. If we go to supporting and support center, all of these movies and videos and documents are listed down here on our support center. I think we have over 300 documents and movies out on our website right now here, and we're always adding more to it. Lots and lots of information here. Please utilize this wonderful new resource that we have. Again, if you've never attended a webinar event and you have a single monitor, use the little red arrow at the top of your webinar control panel there. That'll minimize that, allows you to get it out of the way. Or if you've got a second or dual monitor set up, just drag that control panel off to your second desktop, get it out of the way, allows you to get the full visual effect of their presentation today. So our version of Church Windows is 19.16.2. Just want to confirm for folks. Let me introduce my highlighter here. Right up here, 19.16.2. If you're on an earlier version of 19, you can go right to the website and get the the SR2 update. If you don't have 19 and you're on support, and we would have sent an email to folks about that last fall. If you don't have that email, call us. We're happy to send out another link to that update. So just wanting you to know that's our latest and greatest current version of that. Okay? All right, so let's jump into accounting, talk about our topic here. So when we wrote this document that's obviously being rewritten right now, and when we decided that this was an important subject, was when users would call us and say, hey, Josh, I want a report that shows all of the bills and all of the payments that I've posted to my vendors, accounts payable vendors, in a particular month. Okay, or a week, as the case may be. It's up to you. You determine the actual report period for that. But in most cases, it's a month. I mean, many times that's where we'll get the call about that. Okay, and where we realized the need for this was important was, hey, use your accounts payable journal report for that. That'll show you all of your vendors. So if we go up to reports here, worksheets, we go to accounts payable, and we show, here we've got our accounts payable list, our 4 different accounts payable reports, the list, the aging report, payments due by, and the accounts payable journal. So maybe some of you aren't aware of this particular report. But basically, when I run the accounts payable journal, I can do it for all of them, or I can run it for a particular vendor. So in this case, let me run it for AEP, American Electric Power. So I choose that, and I go to print. The problem with this particular report is that there's no date control on it. It basically shows me every bill and every payment that I've posted to this particular vendor right here under my date occurred. Okay. there's no way for me to go, okay, I just want it for the month of, say, January. Okay? And that's where we realized that the need for this particular event, or learning to show folks how to be able to obtain this information, became at least a topic for the webinar as well as a document, and important that let you know how to do it. Okay? So when we close out of our accounts payable report, and there are a couple different ways you can do this. Okay, you can do it either under the reports and transaction journal, or we can go up to transactions in the upper left and go to browse. And we're going to walk you through how to do it at the browse function. Okay. So this is our list of all of our transactions, where we would go to reverse or correct or, what have you. Okay. Ultimately, we're going to go up to the upper right here where it says print transaction journal, and that's what we're going to use to actually generate the output to send to our physical printer. But before we do that, we have to be able to have the screen display the information that we want to include on our report. Okay? So in order to do that, again, let's say we want to run a report of all of our bills and payments that have been posted to our vendors under for, say, the month of January. So we're going to go right up here to the upper left to our change year, filter and sort, right up here. Hopefully everybody can see that. Let me draw my arrow here. There it is. And so when we click on that, it opens up our transaction browser options screen. This is basically, folks, the same exact window that you see when you open your transaction journal. Okay? So filter and sort allows us to limit it down to certain information that we want to see. So here we're going to start by entering under our date occurred in the upper right our date range. So let's say we're going to run this for January through January 31st. So then we got our date range entered. This is a really powerful screen, folks. This is a really helpful screen in terms of that. I use this window all the time on my support calls. So you can enter a combination of criteria here, as we're going to see here shortly. So we've limited our date range to our transactions dated January 1 through January 31st. We're going to go down the right-hand side here to the Clear All button. Let me draw some focus here. Right here, Clear All. Everybody should see that. And then I'm going to the right of that, once I've clicked Clear All, I'm going to check just bills and payments. Nothing else. Okay, because those are those are the bills that I've paid throughout the month, are those specific transaction types. Those are the ones I want to see on my report. Okay? Then I'm going to go up to my Group and Sort tab, and I'm going to choose Account Name as my sort field. Okay? Sort field 1 is set to Account Name. I'm going to leave it ascending, and I'm going to group by that field. So I want all of my transactions, bills and payments, to be grouped in association with the vendor account that they're associated with. Okay? I'm not going to choose totals only. I like the show separator line on reports, so we're going to check that. And finally, we're going to go to the Columns tab. Okay? This is really kind of where half the power lies in this report. We're going to kind of show a couple different formats of this. But it boils down to, ultimately, folks, is this is your report. What information do you want to see on the report? Okay? I can't decide that for you. None of our technicians can. But you go to the columns to determine that. So we're going to leave like transaction number, transaction type, account number, date occurred, debit amount, credit amount, check or reference number, and payment method. Personally, anything below reconciled, I really don't care about. So I'm just basically going to remove these information columns down here. Account name, in many cases, vendor payee, it's going to be the account name. So I'm going to see that. So here, you can certainly include invoice number, whether it was paid, if there was a due date. But just keep in mind that the more information fields that you have on the report, the more pages are going to be printed. So it might be that you want to keep it simple. I'm not even going to include my transaction comments in my line item comments. I'm not going to include date posted or user or deposit slip. So I'm taking off a fair amount on this report. Okay, if I find that I want to add a particular field, I just close out of it and come back in here and add it back. Okay? Then we're simply going to click OK through this. So notice now it's changed how my transactions are displayed. They are actually sorted by, in this case, by account name. Vendors don't have account numbers. It does put them all together based on the name of the account. Okay? So the vendors that I've paid are my AEP, Ameritech, Big City Utilities, Columbia Gas, but then my other accounts appear too. The actual expenses, the asset. Can't really do anything to avoid that. But now when I go to my print transaction journal, it displays all account name. Let's zoom in a little bit here, maybe draw a little more focus here. So it does show all my transactions are dated in January 2016. I do have my vendor information that I'm seeking. So right here I've got account name. I could choose vendor if I want. So I can't choose AEP or Ameritech or Big City Utilities. And it shows all of the bills or payments that I've posted to them. In addition to that, it does show that the debit and credit accounts, I debited or credited the vendor for the amount and I credited it. It's also going to display for me if a particular vendor has any amounts that are still owed. Okay, so right here we notice, right here under say, well, I don't have a vendor that has something unbalanced. They are all paid equally. So there isn't anything, but the debits and credits on all of my bills are paid. If there wasn't, you would see a credit amount of one amount and then the debit amount would be a different amount. Okay? So if you see something where the debits and credits are unbalanced, then that might be an indication that don't have something recorded, or maybe it's got something recorded in the wrong period. Okay? So you just got to kind of, and we're going to again show a couple different formats of this particular report here. So this is just one way to generate this, okay? What this doesn't show us, like in the case of this case, is like under my bill, and it just says AP vendor or accounts payable. But what this doesn't show is like the expense account that was charged for my bill, okay? So the nice easy way that we do that, let me get rid of my drawings here, is we close out of the preview of the report, and I go back up to my change year filter and sort, and I simply check the box down here in the bottom left-hand side labeled Show Other Details in Transaction. Okay? So we're going to check that. Let me get rid of my drawing. And I'm going to actually suppress repeating transaction data, just make things a little bit easier so any information that's duplicated in the transaction won't be repeated on the report. So now when I click OK on that, it doesn't really show any difference here. If I were to expand it, it does. Notice it does put a plus sign next to my bill or my payment. But where the display really shows differently is when I go back to my print transaction journal. We now notice that it's still including all the original information, but under my bill, it is showing the other account that was debited as part of that transaction. So it shows this bill in January was debiting the multiple different expense accounts, and in the form of my payment transaction, it shows the checking account that was credited, or the bank account that was credited. Okay? Folks, you've got to play with these reports. You've got to determine, again, we can't tell you what you want to see. Okay? You determine what information is important to you. Okay? If you go, oh, well, my payment method and checker reference number were irrelevant, then I would go back, close out, I would go back to my change year, filter, and sort, and I would remove those columns from the list, okay, or from my columns. If I found I wanted to add something, I would just simply add it over, okay? And again, you've got to learn to play with these. There's really no way you can break these. If you like how the report or how the screen is being displayed, you'll need to check the box labeled right down here, Save Selections as Default. Okay? I'm not sure I would save these selections as default for my browse transactions, maybe for my transaction journal. Okay? It's entirely up to you. All right? But once you save that, then those are the columns that are basically going to be displayed each and every time. Okay? But again, printing the report versus generating the preview or how you want them displayed is different. So if I like this, I can just simply export or save this, print it, send it to my printer, whatever I need to, however it works out best for you. Okay? All right, folks, that's pretty much it. Again, play with this. See if there's some other format here that you can find that works best for you. Okay? All right, so let me see what we've got here for questions. Why is there no check or reference number? That's a really great question. No displaying on there. It's because all of our payment methods were electronic. There is no check or reference number entered. If I did have computer checks or manual checks, LeBoy entered in here, and they were entered, they would appear. Even though I have these numbers entered in bills, pay bills, I never see this in any of my report. Okay. Yeah, it would only show up adjacent to the asset portion of the transaction, not the vendor. So yes, in this case, in order for that to appear, you would want to make sure that the Show Other Details box is checked. The Show Other Details in Transaction is checked here under your Show Other, under your Browse, your Filter and Sort there in order to do that. Did you say there was another way? Well, I mean, folks, in terms of that, you can generate this report from your Browse Transactions, but I'm sorry, I guess I wasn't clear by another way. If I go up to Reports, Transaction, and Transaction Journal, it opens essentially the same exact window that I would be seeing, that I look at when I go to my Change Year, Filter, and Sort. And notice I have virtually the same types of options: transaction type selection, date occurred selection, group and sort, show other details in transaction. All of that information is here. It's just simply this is a report versus how my transactions themselves are displayed. Here, again, like I said, I might choose to save selections as default in order to be able to generate this report. I like the format. It's simple. It's clear. I may not want to just check my, choose just to see my bills and payments, but sure, show other details in transaction, group and sort by account name, group by field, click print. Yeah, it's virtually the same exact report. Yeah, again, I'd want to go to my columns tab again to control the columns that I want to see on the report. But yeah, in essence, folks, it's just, am I wanting to go directly to the report, or do I want to show the, do I want to change how my transaction journal is displayed? So, what is the group by field option? Well, it's just basically, Mary Lee, how you want the particular transactions on the report to be grouped. So in this case, I do want them to be grouped by my account name, or technically I could make it my accounts payable vendors or my vendors too if I wish. Okay. But what happens there is when I do that, it goes, okay, I've got bills that are there that are basically that represent the expense side of the transaction that are going to float to the top because it's not that's the other half of the transaction. Once I move past my bills, then I move into my vendors or payees in that case. Again, folks, it's up to you. When there's two payments for the same vendor, how do I separate it as two bills? Well, LeBoy, I'm not sure about that. I mean, that's probably maybe a question that you should call support about. I mean, if we want them to be separate payments, we really do need to go to enter bills and enter them as separate bills. But again, we may need some more information about what about your particular data and your setup. Glad to help, of course. All right, I'm just waiting to see if there's any other questions coming in. But the key, folks, is going to that, going up to the transaction journal or browse, or going to your filter and sort, and making sure that you're choosing, entering the required date occurred, in this case the date range, and specifically selecting the particular transaction types. That's the real key to this report, is what date range do you want? What types of transactions do you want to see? So that alone really takes care of our bills and payments in a particular month. But then your group and sort is what allows you to perhaps group it together by vendor, which may be more of what your accounts payable journal will look like. That's great. All right, folks. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. If you do, please let us know. If you have other questions for support, 800-533-5227. We have technicians here, and we hope this event's been helpful. Again, the movie will be out, or video will be out on our website sometime between now and tomorrow, and we hope to see you at another Church Windows webinar event. All right, I'll go ahead and end the webinar for everybody. Thank you all so much. We'll see you soon. Take care. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.